Okay, so today we're going to start section 3. We're actually going to go through everything you need to do to complete the homework for 5.3a and 5.3b. However, tonight's homework, the 5.3a, majority of the questions in the homework are calculator questions. Any of the questions where it asks for an exact value, that's where you can actually solve it the same way that you did on the quiz on Friday. So at least for tonight's homework, you're not going to do any of the more challenging part of section 3, which is going to be the expand and condense. So we do not have any tests or quizzes this week. However, you do have a test next week. It's going to be split into 2 parts. You will have the non-calculator part on Wednesday and then the calculator portion on Friday. So I highly recommend that you start practicing with the calculator that you are going to use for the test. It has to be at least a scientific calculator because you need a button that has LOG or LN on it. So you don't need to purchase a graphing calculator. The graphing calculators do make it a little bit easier when we're entering in these logs. However, I'm going to teach you something called the change of base, and you can get the same answer as those that have the graphing calculator. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what the change of base is. Now, in fact, you may actually get a question like this on, say, an SAT or an ACT. They may ask you, using the change of base, write the log as a ratio. So what you're going to do, and I'm going to use the word font, F-O-N-T, just to describe which number goes where. So when I'm talking about the big font, I'm talking about this number here that you're finding the log of. This is a bigger font than, say, the base down here. So when I say big font, you're going to do the log of that big font divided by the log of the little font. And let me show you this with some numbers. So for example, right here, the big font would be the 23 because it's a bigger, like if you were typing it. And then the smaller font is this little base. So if you're keying this in your calculator, you're going to be doing log. You're hitting the log button. It'll open a parentheses on most calculators. Close the parentheses. Then you're going to divide. So this fraction means division. And then you're going to hit the log button again. It'll open a parentheses. Close the parentheses. And then you're going to hit enter or equal. That's how most of them will work. If you're using your phone or your iPad, you probably have to enter the number first. Once you do all of this, log of 23 divided by log of 3, you should be getting, oops, let me see here, 2.85404,983. We are going to truncate this to 4 places. So what that means is anything after 1, 2, 3, 4, forget about it. So truncated to 4 places, the final answer here is 2.8504. If it said 3 places, then you'd cut off the 0. If it said 2 places, you'd cut off the 40. So however many places the question says you to truncate or round, this is what we do. Now, if it said to have rounded this question, it still would have been the same because that 4 would have made the 0 stay the same. Does that make sense? So now you can also, notice the formula here, you can also use the LN button. Now, whatever you commit to, so if you decide to do LN 23, then you also have to do LN of 3. So again, you would do the same thing, LN 23 divided by ln of 3, and you're still going to get the same answer. So it doesn't matter which one you use, you will still get the same. Now, for those of you with the graphing calculator, you don't have to do this change of base, but let's say the question on your SAT said to write it as a ratio and not actually solve it, then you would just set it up like this. For those of you with the graphing calculator, if you have the TI 84, maybe even 83, the newer ones have a key or a button that says MATH on it. Once you find that button and touch it, it opens up a whole menu. You're going to scroll down until you find the one that says log base. On my newer calculator, it then opens up log, and it's got a little empty box and then a big box. All you have to do is move your cursor over there, type in the 3, type in the 23, and then hit enter. And it gives you the same answer. But be aware of the change of base and know how to write it as a ratio. Everybody good on that? Let's try 2 examples where we're just using our calculator. The instructions say to round, but we're going to practice truncating. So we're going to truncate our answers to 4 decimal places. So the instructions say to rewrite it as a common ratio. So you can either write this as log, and again, I'm doing big font, divided by little font. Or you could also do ln 25 over ln 4. Both of these are going to give us the same answer. And they're both going to give us approximately 2.3219. So when it says to approximate or estimate, this would be a calculator question. Now, just let's say that we weren't sure if this would have been something we could do. Let's say we took the original problem, log base 4 of 25, and let's say we tried to put it into exponential. This would give me 4 to the x power equals 25. There isn't any integer that would give me a power for x or a value for x that would give me a 25. It's a decimal. So this is why I have to do it using my calculator. Now, just to see if our answer makes sense, if you think about it, 4 squared is 16, and 4 cubed is 64. 25 falls in between here, so it's going to be a number between 2 and 3, and notice the answer I got was 2.3. So it makes sense. I think I hit the right buttons because I got a number that makes sense. So this is a way, if you weren't sure, if you typed it into your calculator appropriately. Let's try example 2. We're going to do exactly the same thing. It's a calculator question. Log of the big font divided by log of the little font. And this approximately will equal 3.5849. Remember, you can also use the ln button, and you get the same answer. Yes?
So you'll always divide by the bigger number?
So you're always dividing the bigger number by the smaller number. So the problem was I used to say divide big number by small number, but then let's say you had something like this. Let's say it was log base 10 of 2. Then you're going to think 10's the bigger number. So this is why I like to use the word font. So it's the size of the number. So the bigger size number divided by the smaller size number. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, if you wanted to see if 3.5 made sense, again, we could do 2. So if we turn this into exponential, so right now it's log 2, base 2 of 12. 2 to the x power equals 12. Obviously, I can't do a change of base here. So this is why this was a calculator question. And again, 2 to the third power is 8, and 2 to the fourth power is 16. 12 falls in between here, so my answer should be between 3 and 4. And I actually got 3.5. So my answer makes sense. This little explanation of checking to see if your answer is correct, that's just a little check for you. You don't have to do that part of it. This is strictly calculator. Yes?
I have a question. Do you ever like round up?
So just read the instructions. If it says round, then you would. If it says truncate, then you just chop off. So this will be key that you read these words. Chances are on the test, we're going to practice truncating, because for those of you going on to take AP Calculus, all of your answers are truncated. They're not rounded. So this is why we're sort of introducing the word truncate to you. Yes, yes. So most of the homework is all calculator. The properties that I'm about to show you, you will do a couple questions where you're going to have to simplify something using a property, but we will not have any expand or condense on tonight's homework. That'll be tomorrow night's homework. But let's go through this.
So there's not going to be that much work for tonight's homework.
Correct. It's mostly all calculator.
So we just have to write the answer.
For the most part, if it asks you to write it as a ratio, then show me that you're doing log 12, like on this one, log 12 over log 2. But there'll be very little work. So maybe just to see, like maybe you're getting the wrong answer, maybe if you put down what you're typing in your calculator, that'll help me see where you're going wrong. Okay? All right, so let's learn 3 more properties. We've already learned some. We're going to add to our list. So the first property is called the product property. And notice here it says log base A of UV is equal to log base A of U plus log base A of V. So if you recall back from your exponent days when you used to multiply exponents, for example, 2 to the third times 2 to the fourth, if you remember, you just take their powers or their exponents and you added them, and this would give you 2 to the 7th. So this is how it ties to our logs, that the product property, if I were to expand this product here of U times V, what I end up doing is giving each part of this product, the U, its own log word, and then the V, its own log word. And that would be the process of expanding that product. Now, you're also going to be given the question where they'll give it to you as the expanded form, and then they're going to ask you to condense it back to a product. The next one is the quotient property. And if you recall from your exponent days, remember if you had something like 2 to the 7th divided by 2 to the 3rd, remember you took the powers and you subtracted them, and this would give you 2 to the 4th. So same thing here. If you're starting out with a division problem and they ask you to expand it, you're going to take the numerator, give it its own log word, and then you're going to take the denominator, give it its own log word, and then subtract them. And the last one is the power property. And what this one states is that you are going to take the power and you're going to move it, or the exponent, and you're going to take it and you can move it around to the front of the word log and now multiply it. So this would be expanding using the power property. When you take calculus, you are going to be expanding and condensing a lot of expressions and equations in order to do derivatives and integrate. So this is leading us into some techniques that you're going to be using in calculus. Now, the first example though, this is actually what you did on the quiz. Notice when it says exact value, this would be something you would do without a calculator. And in the homework tonight, it's going to say find the exact without a calculator. So really, it's the same thing that you did on the quiz. So right now, this is in BAE form, B-A-E. I'm going to turn it into B-E-A, and then I'm going to solve it. So 5 to the x power is equal to the cube root of 5. And now I can change the base, make this 5 to the 1/3. Get rid of the bases, and then you're left with x equals 1/3. So in the homework tonight, when it asks for exact, it's really doing what you did on the quiz. If it says to approximate or estimate, then it's a calculator question. And it'll tell you specifically using your calculator or do not use a calculator. Then there'll be also some, like when you do it on your calculator, if you get error, then that's when you're going to type in the word impossible. So just read the question. All right, next. Now we're going to start the expansion. So let's take a good look at what we have. And they're asking us to take the log of base 4 of this product. I am going to separate this, and I'm going to give each one of these pieces of this product its own log base 4 word. So I'm going to separate all of this out, and I'm going to expand it. So I'm going to go from having only one single log word to 3 different ones. So I'm going to do the blue one first. I'm going to do log base 4 of 5. It's a product, so now I'm going to add log base 4 of x to the 3rd. And then the last one, log base 4 of y. Now, I'm not done yet, because in addition to dealing with this product, I also have a power that I have to move. So when you have an exponent, you're going to take that power and it gets moved to the front of the word log. So my final answer here is going to be log base 4 of 5 plus 3 times log base 4 of x, and then the black one doesn't change, log base 4 of y. So I just use my product property and my power property to expand this log. Let's try the next one. The next one is a fraction. So this tells me I'm going to be using the quotient property. And notice I also have a square root, which I can turn into a fraction exponent. So I'm going to also use the power property. So I'm going to give the numerator. First, I'm just going to deal with the quotient. I'm going to do the ln of the square root of 3x minus 5. Because it's a quotient, I subtract the numerator from the denominator. And then now I'm going to turn that square root into a fraction exponent. And now I can apply my power property and take the 1/2 and move it to the front. So 1/2 ln 3x minus 5 minus the natural log of 7. Pretty good there. Let's try the next one. Notice in the numerator, I've got a product going on. I also have a power. And then because it's a fraction, I'm going to use the quotient. And then I've also got another power here. Because remember, we're going to turn that square root into a fraction exponent. So let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Let's first just take care of the multiplication and the division. So I'll do the numerator first. I'm going to do log base 3 of 4 plus, so that's going to take care of the 4. Now I'm going to take care of the x squared. So log base 3 of x squared. And now I'm going to take care of the denominator. It's being divided, so I subtract it. Log base 3 of the square root of y. Now I can't have any radicals. I can't have any exponents in my answer. So now I need to take care of those powers and the square root. So let me go ahead, and the first one's done. I'll just rewrite it. The second one, I can move the power to the front. The blue one, I'm going to change the y, the square root of y, and I'm going to make it y to the 1/2 power. And then in my next step, I'll move it to the front. Now, if you already realize that the square root of y is going to be 1/2, you could go ahead and jump right to this line. It all depends on how many steps you want to add. Just be careful. Yes. Yes. So then here, I'll do this one in blue, 1/2 log base 3 of y. And that's your final answer. There's practice with expanding. Now we're going to go the other way, and we're going to do examples with condense. Some will be simpler than others. Some, again, will be more complex. So again, for number 1, what we're doing here is we have a power property, we have a product property. We're going to move the 1/2 back as a power first, and we're going to move the 3 back as a power. Then we're going to change the 1/2 into the square root of x. And then lastly, I'm going to condense it down to just the product property, take away the plus sign, and then multiply these two factors. Then for number 8, again, I move the exponent back first using the power property, and then next I went ahead and turned it into a quotient by turning it into a fraction. Number 9, we've got a 1/3 out front here. So this tells me I'm going to have a cube root in here. I've got a plus sign. This is telling me I'm going to be using the product property. And that's it. So let's go ahead and we can condense down what's in the brackets first. So I could get log base 2 of x times x plus 1. And I still have the 1/3 out front. And now I could put this back as an exponent. So log base 2 of x times x plus 1 to the 1/3. And then now turn it into a cube root. X times x plus 1 under a cube root. And that would be your final answer for number 9. And then number 10, again, we've got a power out here, so everything is going to be squared. I've got a subtraction sign, so this is going to be a quotient property. And I've got a power here. So we know we're going to have a fraction, and then the whole thing will be squared. So log, we're going to do this on the top. We're going to swing the power back on this one. This will become a square. So x minus 2 squared And then I also have this exponent, so then the whole thing is squared. And you're done. So again, tonight's homework does not have the expand or condense. It's mostly calculator and exact, which is what you did on the quiz. And then the 5.3b homework, that'll be the expand and condense. However, we're going to do more practice of this tomorrow, but just to show what to expect and get the hang of this, but we're going to try practicing some more of this tomorrow. Any questions?